In this lesson, we're just going to have a look at coding and encoding. So for example, you've probably used a lot of coding before. So if you've ever used something like LOL for laugh out loud, you're taking something that is 3 words and simplifying it to LOL. So we're going to have a look at the advantages and disadvantages of doing this, and also applying it to business areas. So please let me know if you have any questions in this video. What is meant by coding data? So coding is representing data by assigning a code to it for classification or identification. Give examples of coding. So you're probably very familiar with coding data already. When you send a text message or instant message, you probably code your data. So you might use codes like, so here are some examples: LOL for laugh out loud, ROFL for roll on floor laughing, and they've got a few more examples over here. So when you're instant messaging, you're probably already using coding. Give further examples of coding. So often genders are coded as M for male and F for female. Clothing can be coded by type, size, and color. So DR could stand for dress, 2XL could stand for extra extra large, BL could be blue, and DR2XL BL, you can combine all of these codes to form something like this: a dress in size extra extra large and color blue. Using numbers for international dialing codes. So 44 for Great Britain, 33 for France, 49 for Germany, 34 for Spain, etc. And you probably know South Africa is 27. So these are examples of coding. Why would we want to use coded data? So there are a number of reasons for coding data. In the examples, it would take a long time to use all the letters of a country to dial a telephone number, and there would be not enough space on the rear of a car to display the full country name. So it's a lot easier to use letters to represent a country than to use the full country name. Name advantages of coding data. So there are quite a few over here. We're just going to read through these. So presentation. So data can be presented in small spaces, such as on labels or when listing large amounts of data, so like tags on shirts, etc. Storage. Less storage space is required because less characters are used to store the data. Speed of input. So data can be input quickly because only a few numbers or letters need to be input instead of whole words or phrases. Processing. Processors can process data more quickly because they only have to process the coded data instead of the whole word or phrase. Validation. It's possible to validate data by checking it is a particular length or within a certain range or matching other rules. So for an example, International Vehicle Registration Code must be a maximum of 3 letters and not contain any numbers or symbols. Confidentiality. Sometimes data can be coded so it only makes sense to people who know what the codes mean. The last one is consistency. If the correct codes are used, then data will be input consistently without spelling errors, making it easier to be searched or summarized. So these are advantages of coding data. So lastly, name disadvantages of coding data. So we're going to read through these as well. So limited codes. There may not be enough codes available to use, meaning that more letters or numbers need to be added. So some examples here. Within the international vehicle registration codes, E is already used for Spain, and so Egypt, it cannot use E, so that has to use ET, and Ecuador has to use EC. Now that Egypt has taken ET, Ethiopia can't use it, and so has to use ETH. So there are a limited amount of codes that can be used. Interpretation. Codes may be difficult to interpret. For example, with international vehicle registration codes, using the codes I've given over here, somebody might look at ET and assume it is Ethiopia, or look at S and assume it is Spain. It's even more difficult when considering international dialing codes that are represented by numbers, so we can misinterpret the codes. Similarity. Some letters and numbers can be difficult to distinguish, such as 0 and O, or Z and 2, especially if handwritten. With codes it's difficult to guess what the value might be, and so mistakes can occur. At least with words it's possible to guess what the badly written letter might be. Efficiency. If a user inputting codes does not know what code to use, then they will not be able to enter the data efficiently. Instead, they'll have to look up the code. And the last one, missing information. It's possible that some information gets lost during the process of coding. So for example, if devices on a network are coded as L for laptop, P for printer, D for desktop computer, and M for mobile phone, then information about whether or not the mobile phone or laptop is touchscreen is lost. So these are disadvantages of coding. So just let me know if anything didn't make any sense in this video, or if anything was unclear. I hope it was alright.